This internet connection is such a pain sometimes. But, can folks hear us again?
Okay, I can see us again.
I can see us.
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking. Sorry about that, chat. That's probably on my end. Internet is just being a pain. And trying to deal with it as best I can. Okay, chat. Apologies for having to ask again, especially like every 20 minutes or so. Can you hear us? Are we all good?
Yeah, I can hear it if I turn the sound on.
Okay, just double checking on my Twitch real quick.
Okay, thing. Meanwhile, Baya continues terrorizing small children.
I may come to just assume this is bias. Standby. Are we back? It looks like chat's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can hear us, we're gonna try and continue. Apologies for that. The internet is a thing. But yeah, where we were leaving off. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that you care. I get that you want to help. I'm just telling you, it's not gonna be easy.
And I sigh and I say, well, even though I wasn't one who was special enough to be a chosen one, I'm pretty sure that my smarts will solve this problem and save my friend.
The creature sort of bends down to look at you, and at their full height, because they're bending down significantly, they're about 12 feet tall. Like, this is a tall, muscular, full-bodied creature looking at you. If you're doing this for someone you love, I understand. But it's not about being worthy. You just do things to be good. That's all you do. You don't try and be good. You don't get destined to do good. You just do good. That's all there is to it. You don't have to be a genius to know that one.
I come back to the party just as they're saying you have to be good. It doesn't take a genius. I look contritely at my feet.
What are you interested in, by the way? And the creature just sort of turns in the direction of Azerlath.
Well, I'm a representative of the Library of All Knowledge, and I would probably be most interested in anything unusual or unique to this community you might have. So knowledge about the community specifically, or any general knowledge you might have discovered that it would not be found in other places.
Just sort of has a very slightly amused expression. The moment you've said unique or stands out is just sort of if you'd like something else that stands out, points behind them, and none of you have noticed this at this point, up until this point, because massive bat-winged creature, but there is a mace behind them that's about 8 foot long, and it appears to emanate a slightly fiery energy from it, even from being at its current almost holder for it. Imagine a fire axe kind of holder. It's and there's a little plaque beneath it that says "The Judge," and there's a sign above it that says "Don't make me judge you." But But outside of that, like just sort of like because the creature is just generally kind of confused by just someone of knowledge just sort of popping into this. It's like, huh. Interesting. I haven't seen one of your kind of scholarly type in a long time.
Oh, well, we tend to not get out much.
Fair point. Something I can understand. If you're looking for more specifics on anything, more demonology or even undead, there's a section over there that we keep away from the little ones. If you're looking for more info on that. If you're looking for more Nine Hells related info, I can tell you what I know. I used to live there. I used to, hell, back in the day, be a general there. It's kind of surprising what getting kicked through a planar rift and getting stuck in the middle of nowhere will leave you doing. Makes it kind of hard for a pit fiend to get anywhere.
Hey, you said middle of nowhere too.
Hey, I'm allowed to say it. It's my town. But you see, the expression, which has been kind of like trying to be straight-faced throughout it, is just kind of, it's softened considerably since the conversation started. And like just the level of glee that Azerlath has had the entire time is just sort of like, it's like plant that has not had sunshine in the longest bit of time being near a ball of concentrated solar energy. And is just
and they're like totally not phased at all by the massive giant demon. Like, it's like, oh yes, tell me about things. Like, and like short, tall, no problems at all.
I like you. But yeah, you can spend some time just chatting with them. They will give you information regarding like their own history with the Nine Hells. They tell you of a lot of bloody conflicts they were involved with.
They are extremely interested in primary source information about the Nine Hells.
Yeah, and hell, Azerlath, roll an insight check.
Okay.
Just to see something real quick. Very faintly, like right around here, like top part of the cheeks, you see a very slightest level of increased redness as you get them to talk more and more about their history. They're just like, you're a weird one. You're just like
a bookish fire ganassi. Like, yeah, I think most people would be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of half amused listening to this entire exchange, but I'm actually trying to hear any little piece of information that might be sort of like loopholes or, you know, breaking, like, yeah, loopholes essentially of some kind.
It's, that one's a little bit harder to get at because I think the area Azerlath might be more interested in, especially given the primary source enthusiasm, doesn't quite overlap quite as much with the specifics of Breaking and Eldritch Pact. It's a little bit left of center, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. Like,
you-
I'm not expecting necessarily to get the answer to life and everything. It's just,
42.
yeah.
Of course.
But I'm essentially just sort of, in case there's any scrap of information, because I do still pick up lore, even though I act like a curmudgeon a lot of times, I still am interested in new information and lore.
Yeah, you hear about a lot of bloody conflicts. Like, this is like, if Azerlath just keeps asking them questions, they'll just basically like sit down at the desk, pull up a chair for Azerlath to just keep writing and scribing things down, and just will like tell them for hours on end like about all of this. That you hear about bloody conflicts, you hear about civil wars, and a lot of backstabbing being had between especially the Devil Lords, the Nine Hells and such. You hear overlap from their adventures in the Abyss of dealing with demons and such, of more chaotic creatures, and it's in them regaling Azerlath with it, with tales of the Abyss and such, that you catch just a tiniest pinprick of information. Where it's like, yeah, I don't know, like, I think I remember something like a couple thousand souls sacrificed to meet the bargain of an Eldritch Pact or something like that. Or you just got to figure out what they want, please them the right amount of way, and then leave before they notice you might have screwed them over. Like, that's, you get like, it's very offhand comments. You're not even certain whether they like even believe half the stories, because this is like the equivalent of like demon water cooler talk. Like, that's effectively what you get in terms of the amount of information that like DD in particular would care about. It's the most probably that you could get out of this kind of source, because Azerlath, if you poke them a little bit, you'll be able to find out they've been here on this plane for ages, for like 30, 40, 50 years. Like, you just hear about them talking about, at one point, they made their way in an attempt to try and invade an area over here. They were going to like burn it down, go through a usual run of, we're going to destroy this section, bring back stuff for the Nine Hells, it's going to be a party, or it's going to be like nice fun, eat some souls, things like that. And then the calamity happened. And when the calamity echoed across all of the planes, planar travel, which up to this point had been, especially during the moments in which the Ignis bird was going to be reborn, the planes would entirely rip open, and the gods themselves would walk upon the earth. Well, not the earth, the material plane. All the planar travel just cut off, and they got separated from their home realm. And they just kind of got used to living here.
After the first 10 minutes of this conversation, I sent Kawa to basically the best vantage point where Kawa is still within earshot of the three of us, and also keeping an eye on Paya. And I use their senses instead. So like, I'm now blind and I'm just sitting there, sort of just sitting like 1,000-yard stare, but I'm actually using Kawa's senses and listening to this conversation while keeping an eye on Paya.
Which is Bahia just for this entire time just pranking children.
Basically. I did return when when they had that line about ethics and being a good person.
Yeah, that's, and you probably would have heard just a little bit, like, even throughout it, if Baya were able to stick around a little bit longer, or was willing to like sort of tough out some of the grimier details, probably also would have heard that they were someone who was like, yeah, I did some terrible stuff, killed a lot of people, but this place is my home now. I'll defend it with my life. I don't have anywhere near the strength I used to have in my home realm. Being away from it sapped me, but there's good folk here, and I want to keep them strong and do what I can.
OC question. So I've been trying to pick it up from context, but I haven't been able to get it. When did we meet Azerlath, and like how did they join us, I guess, as a group?
I think I just kind of inserted myself. I'm traveling, healer, likes knowledge. It worked.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get.
Healers are good to have around.
Yeah, sure. And
Yes.
OC. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, no. It, like I, for our viewers tuning in, basically I asked Azerlath, and Azer's like, "Yeah, I'm just a bookish type who just wants to know stuff, and these people are traveling, and they probably could use healing, so I'm there." That is literally all that was needed to join the party.
Makes sense.
It can be that simple. The backstory can be that simple.
And as I find out that you are sort of a font of knowledge, and like a knowledge and following the god of knowledge, I'm now just a little more interested in you. Otherwise I usually ignored you for the most part.
As all of these hours pass, by the way, because this is hours upon hours of conversation, of just scribing, hearing all of this, Bo, you having hours upon hours of this training, you start hearing arcane sounds appearing, coming from outside, just little pop noises that aren't
Is it popcorn?
It's not popcorn. It does sound a lot like popcorn, but you start hearing just multiple, just popping noises happen in the air, and you hear a voice just sort of echo out across all of the town, just magically magnified from what you can tell. The celebration is, we will be having the end of the celebration with everyone. And if you have time, please come to the Temple of the Lady of Change, and we will be happy to provide all of you with an end to this wonderful harvest festival. And it sounds like a very calm, if it's a very soothing, central sort of voice. Maybe it's slightly nervous, but very much comforting. Just centered, grounded sort of voice. And you just start hearing sort of like a very slow but very determined sort of movement of people from across all of the tents and such. Just start heading over in the direction of the town square.
So we head there as well?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep listening to, story number 72?
I'll have
You
you know
notice-
it's 77.
I lost count around like the early 40s.
You notice that in this entire conversation that Didi has not moved and just has been in one position. But Kawa has been sort of moving around and adjusting, following, like tracking Paiya.
I'm right behind you.
Azerlath, you are the closest to see Isba just moving this massive clawed demonic hand over towards Didi and like doing the whole like when someone's like a frozen statue kind of thing to try and like knock them over. And just like
Oh, I like them.
yeah, Didi, you just it doesn't do any damage. You just end up prone, but they just basically like because they're so strong.
I see myself go prone.
Basically.
And then I finally go back into myself and, I like my eyes that sort of glazed over and almost like a white film goes over them, just clears up. And it's like, that was rude,
You scare children doing weird arcane stuff like that without giving folks a heads up.
I look contrite.
And I at that point, Kawa and me both stare at Bhaiya for a moment, and then I say, well, I need to make sure that they don't damage the books here.
Trust me, it's best just to let it happen sometimes. It's a lot of mess otherwise. If you tell them no, they respond even worse and get you back at it. And you sort of see them, they've mostly been sitting, they've been standing, but you haven't been able to see the tail that's been behind them. But you see a bunch of almost sticky marks left on the edge of the tail where it seems as though there's been a lot of kids with just like grubby hands have just been going and like trying to latch onto it and climb up Yzba's back to ride it.
If with your permission, I can get rid of that.
Just let it be. I've come to terms with the life that I have. Just let it be. There's this
Okay.
look of like just very sullen like this is my life. This is what I do.
So the popping noises and the voice and the end of the harvest festival. We going or not?
Yeah, we probably should go. Welcome.
Are you going, Ispa?
I need to watch the books. If someone doesn't take care of them, they're just gonna think, oh, it's books. Knowledge. Everybody knows stuff already, right? And it's like no one needs to watch the precious, valuable books.
Right, got it. I head out.
It's very much for anyone both in chat and among the players who's ever seen the like very like frazzled white furred like monkey picture. It's very much that sort of positioning with just imagine this but a 12-foot tall demonic figure making this gesture of just like just sort of done with the thought of like no one caring about the books. And I will say before you leave, would Azerlath, Didi, and Bahia please roll me a perception check real quick.
Sure thing. I see nothing.
I am lost. I will say, yeah, Bahia, you're just like, yep, I'm gone, I'm out, peace, and just start heading out. But Azerlath and Didi, you see from where as you're leaving. Oh God, chat! The books are mimics. They're not mimics. That part comes later. But what happened? You notice as you're about to head out, and as you're like picking up some of your scribing equipment and such, and just like rolling up the like 12 scrolls of worth of material. It's not actually 12 scrolls, but it just how much you've written feels like it's been so much. You notice a piece of paper sticking out of the end of the desk. Didi, you also notice it as well. And there appears to be something drawn on it. And it looks almost cartoonish, almost comic book-ish. Or what might pass for like a medieval, like fantasy, like era version of like someone doing artwork.
I sort of try to sort of spend whatever I can. Like I just take a quick glance, like sorry, not quick glance. I take a more prolonged glance at it before I leave the library.
Azerlath, do you do anything?
Nope. They're not particularly interested.
Didi, I'll say because you took a prolonged glance. I won't make you roll for it because you did roll pretty high for it. You got a 19. I'll say that's enough that you got a glimpse. And as you take a more concerned look, you see a title peering out from underneath one of the pages underneath that says The Dashing and Amazing Tales of Isba Delgroth.
Aww.
It appears to be comics drawn of her own adventures.
That's adorable.
And as you're walking away, Isba just notices that you saw and just sort of like gives you like a cold stare and just was like does one of these and then it's just like
I sort of just pretend. I give the glance of like just shrug, and I just walk off.
you're able to just head out. And the festival, whereas before the day had been sort of a cool, sunny, at times breezy, but just very pleasant day, you see the sun is beginning to set, reaching sort of a dusk sort of time. And it wasn't quite on your mind as you were passing by everything, given that it was a long day of travel. You were just trying to get somewhere to rest and just get on with it with everything. You reach a point where it's a beautiful image, where I imagine, especially for someone like Baya, that there's this almost not unnerving, but it just sort of catches you off guard, that you look out onto the fields that are a little bit far away on more of the western entrance and sides of this village, and the sun just catches and almost rolls off, almost like a breath of wind, but the sunlight just dancing across all of the grasslands, just beautiful shades of sort of yellow, red, and orange, just spreading out through all of it and just sort of bleeding out, catching the very end of the sunset as it's coming down. And it's a beautiful sight in this place. It's very different from home. It's very different from where you've been. And it's a tranquil moment.
Are there any puddles since I left first and I'm skipping ahead? Are there any puddles on the way to the site of the fields and the sunset and the rest of the harvest?
This is just something that you're able to see as you're passing by through
Oh,
the
I see.
town, because you're able to go through the town square. But this is just more like as you're passing through some of the building and such, you can see the fields out, because pretty much all of this, even with how it packed some of the kind of simple country-esque style kind of homes, you can hear the river that passes by the mill just a little bit a ways on the southern entrance of this. You can see the grasslands. It's kind of impossible not to know that it's there are farmers who live here, because it's crops,
Makes sense.
equipment, and everything. But you don't really see any puddles passing by. You see maybe one that's spilled alcohol from what must have been some very rowdy festival attendees.
I guess any reflective surfaces then, like the outside of a window from
You pass by
a building
one.
that's not. Okay. I'm just gonna sort of give it a light wrap, and I'm just gonna say, I don't know, librarian. Think about it. I'm just gonna keep going.
You hear a very amused giggle, but this one doesn't. For once, you catch almost a split second. It's not conniving. It's not condescending. It's almost like you genuinely made them laugh. Just for a moment.
How terrifying! I go and enjoy the festival.
But yeah, it is wonderful. It is just boisterous people all around. There's just, even as the festival feels as though it's winding down, coming near the end of its festivities, you still see the Beau. You're able to meet up with the party at this point, because probably you'll hear the same announcement, and Elena will probably be like, I should probably go and help be security for that as well. But you're all able to pass by, and Elena somewhat sheepishly goes up to the wild mage goblin that you met before, and she buys a drink for herself and for you, and just offers it in case you want to try it.
Does she drink first?
She drinks first.
I will drink it if I see her drink.
Okay.
Why not?
Roll me a d4.
Okay.
Okay. So, as this happens, wait, let me roll this for myself as well. As this happens, how tall is Beau, by the way?
She's about 5'5".
Yeah, you're looking at about 7'5" after that drink. As
Oh.
you just increase in size all of a sudden. As, you drink it down, and it's oh, it's kind of it has the kind of effect that, I think, what was it called? It was Pop Rocks candy kind of has, where it almost just bubbles a little bit, but it's a liquid sort of form of that. But it's pretty sweet. It's pretty tasty. It's like a lot of good ales that you've had before. And then all of a sudden, you just sort of hear coming from your stomach a little boop, and you're huh, everything's shorter all of a sudden.
Wow, this is a really different view than I'm used to. Huh.
And
I kind of like it.
as
And where is Elena still standing next to me?
Elena's standing next to you.
But she's short now.
No, she's about as tall as you were.
Oh, so she's grown too. Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna toast her with my cup or whatever it was that he gave us to drink from.
Yeah, it's basically he just gave you a really ratty tankard that he's just been pouring a bunch of different sample drinks into. And
Sure. Yeah, Beau doesn't worry
also
about germs.
You start noticing Elena's hair is becoming effectively the color scheme of a pride flag.
Oh, that's interesting right there. Elena, did you want your hair to be that color?
Well, I guess the question really is, did you want your hair to be that color?
Is and Bo's gonna like take one of her braids and like look at it. And is it the same color as Elena's?
Yeah, it's
Huh.
vibrant, like pride flag colors all the way, all over.
Okay. Well, I mean, I haven't ever dyed my hair, so this is a new experience for me. I think I like it. Nice colors.
It looks great. I told you you'd like the color. The goblin's just looking at you, just sort of giving a couple of thumbs up. And, like, you see there's several burn marks all across his hands. And
Hmm.
now his nose looks as though it's been broken a couple of times. And it looks. He wasn't like that a few hours earlier.
Right, right.
So, yeah, it's an interesting experience to say the least.
Hmm. Well, Bo is going to go off and find her companions so she can show off her new hair color.
Yeah, you are all able to meet up in the town square, which is relatively close to the temple to the Lady of Change and the Mother of Halflings. And while you are approaching it, people remain as happy as ever. Everything's just absolutely fine. And you see another individual step out amidst the crowd and sort of take a more like focused position amongst everyone. And it's an interesting sight because I don't know if really that many of you would have encountered an Aarakocra before.
Would I have read of them?
You might have read of them. That's highly likely, and I imagine Azerlath.
Yeah.
Azerlath is like could probably do like a PowerPoint on them, but has
Oh,
never
yes.
probably like interacted directly with them. But is just like I know all the things and the customs and the traditions and everything. It's like if they have this feather pattern, they're this distinct mountain range, but only if they're from like if they were born during the winter time. That happens only then. And
Are we gonna have like knowledge offs or something?
your DM will plan for this. This is a thing that your DM will actually plan for. And you see a figure step out, and they, for people who know what this looks like, I'll tell you the shorthand description, but I'll give you the longhand description for the benefit of everyone who wants who needs a full description. But they look like essentially a humanoid version of a black railbird, which means essentially they have sort of red irises with black pupils, a pointed beak, the interior feathers that sort of stretch out from them, at least on one side, is a pattern of blue and gray that sort of extends to their skin, and there's deep black sort of points to the ends. There's sort of like a feather tuft point for essentially where their ass would be, that ends in sort of a spotted white. And they're carrying a long brown quarterstaff in one hand with a yellow-green sort of open vest over a simple white tunic, a pair of very faded brown cotton pants, and no shoes, so you can see very clearly that they have taloned feet and that they are also missing an arm.
I was gonna grab Didi and say, "There is a bird walking through the people."
I believe the word you were looking for, Pia, is Eric.
That is so
And-
many syllables. I'm going to say bird until they come close, and then I will say, "What did you say? Era Coke? Is that what language is that from? That's not Goblin. That's not Common.
That is their class. That is the scientific name for these bird folk.
Okay, that's why I don't care. Wait, I did not know they existed. Do all of them only have one arm, or is that like unusual?
And it is also rude to ask them about those things too, by the way. But as
Well, yes,
far
I'm
as I'm
asking you.
as far as I know, they do have two arms, but perhaps something might have happened to this one. Again, it might be rude to ask them how unless they specifically
I'm not
state.
gonna ask them how. I've seen other people lose their arms before. I just don't know anything about these people. I don't know. Some people have tails. Some people might miss an arm.
I'd say at this point, Bo, you meet up with your group right about at the point where Baya is finishing saying, I've seen people missing arms before. Like, you hear that bit. You come in at about that moment. And
Oh my god, we were trying to blend in!
So,
And I also look at you as like,
a thing happened, and
You don't say.
I'm not fully displeased with the with the results. Actually, look at my new hair color.
please tell me you didn't get into some pact for this.
No, I accepted a drink. Is what I
That
did.
could
It
be
was a
considered a pact.
totally innocent thing. Look, I accept drinks all the time. It was totally innocent.
I think the normal saying is, I'll have what you're having, but in this case, please tell me what it is so I will never have it.
Accepting a drink sometimes also constitutes as a pact. I know.
Oh, well, I suppose I'll have to deal with that later.
Who back home made a pact with a drink? I've never heard of this, Didi.
And I look at you pointedly.
I didn't have a drink in order to make my pact. What do you think I am? Some sort of... Okay, how do you think this happened?
You when you were but a toddler, remember those really delicious drinks Mom would feed you?
Yeah? Or no, rather, actually? You've always told me about it, but no, I don't remember it. I've just sort of believed you.
And at this point, I really lower my voice and I say, that was preparing you for your final covenant.
I cock my head and like I'm gonna turn around and just like look for a window. Because I need to ask this question.
As you do that, while this is happening, you are all, I'd say Azulath, you're able to hear this conversation, but you're also hearing this person speak, this Aarakocra speak. Thank you, all of you, for attending this festival. It is, as always, a pleasure to be here with all of you. I know that we do not think about such things as leaders, as formal things that we give to people, as titles. But I am grateful to speak as the leader here, as part of Our Lady of Change's will. And I hope that you have all enjoyed yourselves for this festival, and that the blessings of change continue for all of you. I was born with such things in the state that I am, and I was blessed. Not because it is inherently good to be this, not because it is inherently bad to be this, but because I am what I am. Blessed with the glory of Our Lady's will, and with the glory to know a life in which people care about me, in which we have made for ourselves here, and in which we have learned to create a haven for those who have been hated, for those who have suffered, for those who need home. We hope that Avis, for all of you, whether you stay but a day or you stay for the rest of your life, will come to be a haven for all of you, not just for the halflings that founded it, but for all of you. We hope that such things that your lives will become the blessings that mine has been graced by being your leader. I, Salik, thank you all for a wonderful festival, and we shall end the evening in a wonderful celebration with some fireworks that people have offered to supply for all of us. And you just see a couple of individuals, even the illusory mage from earlier who was creating that fantastic dragon just floating around, roaming around and delighting the children, just sort of all stretch out their hands. And it seems to, I'd say, Dee Dee, you would recognize this from your studies. It's sort of a modified magic missile where instead of using it as sort of like force darts that just automatically hit, they're using it to sort of to channel it as like bursts of energy that'll pop off at certain moments. So you just see them just firing them off into the air, and occasionally some folks, like very low level mages from what you can tell, are prestidigitating them into various colors. You see blues, reds, yellows. It's just a basically arcane equivalent of like firework display going all over the skies, and people are cheering and happy children are running around and everything feels wonderful. It's just so sweet. And then you hear a cry. You hear what sounds like an old voice, a man moaning, long, just pushing through the crowd, through some of the stands. Ratty, graying hair, some points white, just unkempt appearance. Appears to be human in nature, just wielding an axe and holding a torch in his hand. A long black coat over also a similar tunic. Very much like a lot of the farmer's gear that everyone here has been wearing. And you see him move closer to one of the people. You see one of the folks like, sir, are you doing okay? He reaches out with an axe, slices down on one of them, and cuts them down. And then turns into one of the tents, takes the torch, and sets it on fire.
Can I prestidigitate the torch if I see it? I don't think that... Oh yeah, snuff out the torch.
You do. And the moment the magic ends, your cantrip is called and used to snuff it out. It relights. And as you do that, you hear him sort of cry out, "The blood. The blood is tainted. The blood will come for us all. It is here. We are made by blood and undone by it." And you see just the axe slowly drift by his side for a moment, and you watch as he gestures out with his hand, with his arm, and from his veins you see bits of blood emerge and form into a creature, almost goblinoid, and a long hooked nose, little wings, an entire form that looks like almost like if you had congealed boiled blood just form into this almost like imp goblin like creature.
Can I shoot him while he's doing this? Because this seems like an appropriate target.
You would, if we had time.
Alas.
Because that is where we are going to leave off for this week's session, for the first episode of Adventures in Agni with this crew. I wanted to try and get a combat, but when we were getting to a certain point, I just knew it's going to take a while to do a combat, and I don't want to try and keep people up because it's been a really good first session and a really fun one, but I want to try and respect the time that we have, and I want to try and get through just a couple of last things real quick. Let me double check once the document decides to load. So, above all else, I want to thank our wonderful people who tuned in to watch this first episode of this all POC crew, this amazing, wonderful cast of players, of delightful, absurd, creepy, and just downright interesting, and maybe at some points just done with everything kind of folks. I love you all so much, and as a unique aspect that you can advertise to everyone else, this is probably one of the only streams in which you will have two Bolivian American people in it. So yay, Bolivian pride. But also, thank you so much to everyone who took the time to tune in for this. I realize that for some folks this might have seemed sort of like a long, like, oh, it was just a lot of talking, but this is also another part of what D&D is us creating stories together, of getting to see these relationships develop, of folks having their moments that they share, they go back and forth, they play off of each other. And I'm so thankful for everyone who has taken the time to come in and get to witness this with us and enjoy the show with us. So, with that being said, hold on, let me just double check these last few things. Yes, so thank you to everyone who followed us during this, subbed, folks who hosted, the group of, I believe it was like 9 people who came and raided in. I lost track of who it was, but just thank you so much to everyone who was being so gracious in the chat. Thank you, chat, for being hilarious and amazing. And the books are not mimics. I promise you right now, the books are not mimics. At least as far as I can be truthful with you, the books are not mimics. I want to remind everyone who's tuned in to tune into the Discord. Join it if you have interest. Support us on Patreon. It'll help so many more of these kinds of stories emerge, so many more of these kinds of worlds get a chance to be discovered and shared with so many wonderful people like this. And as always, and also merch. Support the folks who help support us. And I do not know what is currently next on WTP, because I don't know, or are they? I love you, chat. You are my rock, and also a headache, probably.
I bet you the comic book is a mimic.
The comic book is not a mimic, I promise. It is like self-insert. I'm telling you, out of character, it's self-insert fanfic at its worst, made by a pit fiend. Enjoy that as a D&D story for all viewers. A pit fiend who made her own self-insert fanfic. Enjoy that as a story.
I feel like we need to make a book mimic now that it's been like promised. That
And I just wanted to, this campaign, actually the secret evil bad guy of the entire thing is just a massive book mimic. That is the final boss, actually.
Why won't you read me?
Also, chat, fanfic is just as dangerous as any mimic. Chat is reminding me, tomorrow there will be Tales from Fife. I am uncertain of that one currently, how to pronounce that. The other thing that I know I need to do is going to raid another channel. I have to figure out how I want to do that. Wait, hit that raid. Tell people who should you raid. Castle Mac is probably one. Thank you also, viewers, for tuning into me stumbling over this very last thing of how do you do the thing. I believe I just type an exclamation point and then raid. Or if it will let me. Come on, Twitch. I know you don't like me, but please. And yeah, I believe that's the last thing. If a mod who is available or someone in chat could just tell me how to raid, that would be the last thing. Or while I'm waiting to get that message of how to do that, I want to do another proper thing and give folks the time. I was going to say, for rating, let's pick Dumpstat Charisma, if they're on. Yeah, Dumpstat Charisma, or unless the chat already has. This is not my field of expertise. But before we get into that rating element, I do want to give just a moment to just if the players would like to talk for a second about any sort of thing where people can find you, links for your materials, or just what you do and such. I'll start real quick. I'm Angela. You can find me at Phoenix24Fem. Phoenix24Fem. I write poetry, a lot of different things. Basically queer, depression related, disability justice related, or just inclusivity and disability justice. Yeah, I'm basically just disability justice, queer, and trans stuff all the time. This is my entire existence, as most of any player who's seen me run a game can attest to now. But yeah, that's me. Find me at Phoenix24Fem or Philosophem for Patreon. Azrael.
Yeah, so my name's Aletta. You can find me at A Fire Gender on Twitter. And I am an artist and a screen printer. So I have links on my pinned tweet to all my things, my portfolio, all my other social media, Patreon, Ko-Fi, all that stuff. Yeah, so I draw weird landscapes mostly, kind of stylized, and sometimes I draw people. And I just started playing Magic the Gathering, so I'm also working on altering cards because that's super fun.
Okay, gonna pass it over to Bo.
Hi, I'm Lily, and I'm Elise on Life on Twitter. And I do a variety of things. I talk books a lot, but I'm also a player in Misfits of Space, which is a Star Wars live play podcast that I have. And you can find that on iTunes and Google Play and other podcatchers.
Wonderful. Miriam?
So you can find me on Twitter at media_junkie, as well as I've just released the first episode of the Musafirs, so happy about that, which is actual play D&D podcast. I'll put the links below, and it is based on my campaign world of Sersamine, and I have a Patreon if you want to chip in and see the progress.
Wonderful. And last but not least, our resident spooky haunted warlock.
Hi, I'm
Warlock.
Anthony. You can find me on Discord as Jojoro7209. I'm on a lot of 5th edition and OSR Discords. Outside of the internet realm, I work both as a elementary school TA and also as a bartender.
Okay, I believe that is everybody. I literally typed in the chat to perform the raid. It says we are going to be raiding Revengers Guild, which is an amazing name. Sort of reference. Okay, and if someone in terms of the mods or chat can give me a cue as to letting me know whether or not that's something that I can get access to in terms of doing the raid, because otherwise that is officially everything that needs to be taken care of for the stream. That is the last thing. Oh god, we are not making. As your DM is, so folks are aware who are still with us. The party would like to make a book DM as a book mimic together. The DM will remember this.
It's the comic books.
The comic book was secretly the answer to all the problems in the universe. In any case, I'm gonna close out by saying thank you to my wonderful players. Thank you to all of you who tuned in. I love you all very deeply, and I'm going to practice this as a potential sort of closeout for everyone. May the fire and light and warmth granted by Ignis not be lost, but be carried on by all that you bring with us. All of the wonderful players bring to these games, and all of you wonderful people who support players like us needing these spaces to create, to flourish, to grow, and to create a flame of light and justice for everyone. I love you all, and have a wonderful evening.
Huzzah.
Right.
Thank you. Okay.